What's happening, Reboot Team? It is all three of your Reboot heroes today coming at you with a very special video, something that is near and dear to our hearts. It all has to do with you. Essentially, gauging your success in this program. While you're in this group, how do you know if you're growing? And ultimately, how do you know when you're ready to move on? We're going to dive into all the specifics of that very, very soon. But first things first, Dominic, how are you today?
I'm ready to kill it like usual. We're about to have a fire one today. Let's get it cracking. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Arrest in the house as well. What's popping, homie?
What's up, guys? Hey, guys, all three of us in one room. Too much reboot power in one room.
It's too much reboot. Let's get it started. I'm going to share my screen, and here is what's going down. So, again, we're talking about gauging your own success in your reboot journey. Now, let's talk about your first year in recovery. Now, for further detail on this, go on and check out your first year in recovery module. But what we're going to do is walk you through some things that you are expected to be working on if you're following the system and if you're following the program come your first year of recovery. First thing to keep in mind, it typically takes about a year and a half, 2 years to fully rewire. Just keeping in mind, guys, we have been at this type of behavior for a long, long time. So by the time we reach 90 days and you're going to see benefits. You're going to see a change in your energy and your mindset. But to think that the job is done just because we're feeling good, that's not necessarily the case. So we're going to remain humble through this process. So understand, again, not a sprint, but a marathon, which leads us to accept the fact that you're rebooting. You know, in the module, as you'll see, the example that JK gives is, you know, he lives in Kansas, and it's like taking a cross-country trip from Kansas to, say, California. Your goal is California, but then you drive all the way west, but then you reach Colorado. And you're like, wow, I came such a long way. I'm so proud of myself. I'm going to set up shop here. But in the meantime, your goal was to get to California the whole time. So accept the fact that you are rebooting. This is a long drawn out process. It is possible, but it is a long-term game. In your first year of recovery, with this sense of self-awareness that you are developing over time through the tools that you use, through the coaching calls that you attend, you are learning how to avoid high-risk situations. This will become clearer over time with the daily feelings exercise, with the dialoguing that you do, with the accountability partners that you interact with. You get to know yourself much, much more compared to, you know, when you first started this program. That is one thing to look forward to. Also, something that is going along with your first year in recovery is practicing honesty in your life. If there's honesty in your tools, there's going to trickle into your life. The more honest you are with, okay, how am I feeling today? What am I thinking about? And where are these particular sets of feelings, thoughts, and triggers coming from? The more you give yourself permission to feel your feelings and organize your thoughts and make conscious and intentional choices of which thoughts and which behaviors are healthy and unhealthy for you, the more you're going to see that sense of control, authenticity, and honesty in your life. It's going to happen if you stick with the system. Learn how to ask for help. So this is us putting our ego on the shelf. You know, guys like us, we're all smart guys, right? But sometimes asking for help can feel like slipping backwards. So let's say you've been in this program for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and you're killing it, right? And let's say, God forbid, there is a slip, right? Let's say that there is an emotional relapse of some kind. You're feeling some type of way. Asking for help and maybe going back to the basics can feel like going backwards, can feel like you're losing progress, you're losing steam, you're losing momentum, you're no longer rebooting. And that cannot be further from the truth, gentlemen. It is about keeping the momentum forward, even in small steps. And asking for help is a bigger step than it might seem on the surface. If you're in your first year of recovery, if you are following the system, you know this to be true. Make time to be at peace with your reboot, guys. You know, if you are within 1 year and you still find yourself resentful of the process, if you still find yourself holding resentment toward boundaries, it's like that Pinocchio syndrome, right? I want to be a real boy. It's like this striving to be normal. Let me cut to the chase. You're not normal, right? You are not a citizen, right? This is not a citizen's flight. This is not a citizen's journey, okay? This is saying enough is enough with a behavior that we know societally, socially, whatever word you want to use, it's perhaps more so accepted, but it's proven to be unhealthy for us. We are in the small minority that have claimed the fact and have admitted the fact that this type of behavior is proven to be a problem for us, but an even smaller percentage of guys that actually do something about it, right? So you are among the few, as Dominic likes to say a lot. And it is absolutely true. Be at peace with who you are, and what you're doing. It takes time, but the fact you're doing it at all makes you stand out. And one of the things that make you stand out is celebrating your little wins. Everything counts, gentlemen. If you're not doing that after a year of this program, still, there's some self-assessment due. Discover fun without, PMO. I know a lot of you guys, for example, are musicians, right? I know a lot of you guys are coders, programmers, right? I know a lot of you guys are athletes. Discover fun, discover excitement, and discover vulnerability without excessive sexuality, right? This is something, if you're following the system, you will find in your first year of rebooting. And finally, stay plugged into community. Guys, as we say all the time, community and accountability are both the backbone that make this program work. Now, we're going to talk about community a little bit later, but let's just kind of open up the floor a little bit. And if anybody has any thoughts they want to chime in with as far as what is expected if one is following the program and following the system for their first year, if anybody wants to chime in on any of the points made so far.
From my experience, I always mention this all the time. I came from a 12-step and I learned how to share in a group already before I came in. So I already had that skill set, if you will, to share and be okay with saying that I had a addiction and that I slipped, that I whatever, all that good stuff, right? And that I came in with that, and that was okay, right? I feel like a lot of people don't have that, and I tend to forget to put myself in you brother's shoes that say, yeah, I don't know how to do that, right? And that's okay. So figure out where your starting point is and where your strengths are, and just go where you're lacking, right? That perhaps is for me when I came in was my morning routine. I had no idea that was like something I should be doing with intention, at least with an intention. We all have a morning routine, but if you're not aware of what it is, then it runs you. And journaling a lot, your feelings, and also having an accountability partner. And that's where I feel like I lag, and I focus on those areas first, not necessarily what I was already okay with or good at that point. So your starting point will be different from others.
Yeah, that's fire. And I love the first point. It says it tells you right away it takes a year and a half to 2 years to fully recover. And a lot of guys get this confused. They think that it's going to end up being a lot quicker than that. And that's a big problem and mistake. See, one of the reasons why counting days is so prevalent in the NoFap community or just in these type of envelopes in general is because they think there's a quick fix to this. I was on YouTube not too long ago, and I saw this video where it mentioned that, you can recover from PMO addiction in 30 days. And it's called like God mode. If you just stay off of your phone and don't watch anything at all related to it, then you'll be fine. And it's like, you guys have no idea. See, I know guys who literally have been off of PMO for about a year and 2 months, right? Then these same guys will end up using because they think that they're okay, and they turn out to be worse than they were before. So being in that situation, does that not tell you that you still have a problem with this, even though you were that far into your recovery? And so I think it's important to understand, like, it's not that we want to count towards a year and a half or 2 years, but what we want to do is just understand that's how long it takes. That way we don't get impatient with the process also, because truthfully, it's very rigorous. It's extremely difficult. You go through a lot of shit, you relapse sometimes. And it's like, fuck, when is this going to be over? And having that kind of in mind lets you know and helps you understand that, hey, I did a lot of damage to myself, on the back end. So I have a lot of work to do on the front end, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. And so, that being like a point of reference is extremely important. So,
Nah, that's good stuff. And I
Yeah,
love how you mentioned that, you know guys that have maybe not watched it out for over a year, but still they'll end up, maybe slipping once, something triggering or life altering or unexpected comes their way. And to kind of borrow from a different world of recovery, I never had a drinking problem. I had a thinking problem. So, in other words, how
yeah,
it might apply here, it's again, I say a trillion times only because it's true. This is not just the group. Yes, and excessive masturbation, unhealthy sexuality, what have you, may have gotten us into this group and may have been sort of the impetus toward, needing to reach out for help and a system that works. But the more you're in this group, we're changing not just the way you behave, but the way you think. And if we find ourselves, however long down the line, even as long as a year, with similar thought patterns that perhaps got us into needing a group like this to begin with, again, this is where some self-assessment is due.
definitely.
Yeah. So, with that preface in mind, here is the crux of this video, and here is what we want to show you guys. Here is the truth. We know brothers in this group that have been with us for a very, very long time. We know them, we love them, and we're so happy with the progress that they've made and the effort that they're putting in. But one thing that you'll hear many guys say in this group, and it's true, you're not meant to be rebooting forever. It's just like a computer. It's like, yeah, it's going to take some time to update the software, but at the end of the day, the job's going to be done. Now, when we say the job is done, there's going to come a point where we're going to be flying out of the nest, right? Now, for
Yep.
some of us, we may not know or won't know how to gauge if we're in fact ready to leave the nest. So what we did is compiled some questions to ask yourself to see if you're in fact ready to leave the nest. What's going on, brother? Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Slips to Success. If you like what you saw, feel free to let us know down below in the comments. What was your favorite part? What was your biggest takeaway? And what will you be working on based on what you saw in this video? If you've got a question, feel free to ask us with the hashtag Slips to Success. And for all we know, it just might be the topic for the next time we do this. Stay tuned for next week's edition of us breaking down tips and techniques to bring you from slips to success.